The Capitals fall in the first game of the playoffs to the New York Rangers. What needs to change before game number two? I'll give you a little bit of a hint. The Capitals need to up their physical game.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit fanduel.com/locked on to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how the Capitals fall in the first game of the playoffs to the New York Rangers. It wasn't pretty out there. I'm just going to be honest with you. The Capitals got worked over in every aspect of the game. They didn't play sound offensively. They didn't play sound defensively. Charlie Lindgren did what he could do, but ultimately it wasn't enough to lift the Caps over the Rangers. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about how the Capitals need to pump up their offense if they have any hopes of winning games. Not winning the series, but winning games. Many of the shots were wide. They missed their target. Instead of the Capitals shooting the puck, they were looking for the cutesy pass. All the things that have plagued them this last year, how will they overcome? And then a little bit later, we'll talk about how the Capitals absolutely must up their physical game. But just to get it going here, a rough game this afternoon, suffices to say, an uneventful first period. And I guess that's a good thing, 0-0. I mean, that's not going to win you a game. That's not necessarily going to lose you a game either. But the Capitals didn't find the back of the Rangers' net in the first period. Neither did the Rangers find the back of the Capitals net, but that is the uneventful hockey that is good to a certain extent, but is not what's going to win you games. And then you take a look at the second period where that wheel really started to wobble for the Capitals, and well, that was curtains for the Capitals. Obviously wasn't good enough tonight, Wilson said. At this time of year, it's huge. You got to make a difference, especially the special teams and those kind of things, to shift our way if it can. The Rangers, they handed it to the Capitals and they lost by a score of 4-1. Caps falling 4-1 in game one. That is not what the doctor ordered. It started well, and the Caps played well defensively in the first, as it was 0-0 after one. And I thought, hey, this is better than I thought. I thought, with all the offensive firepower that the Rangers have, it could have been far worse. If it was not for Charlie Lindgren, it would have most definitely been much worse. But what happened? Well, the New York Rangers scored a goal in the second, and that was it. The floodgate opened, and that was all she wrote for the Capitals. But the wheel did start to wobble for the Caps in the second in a big way. Martin Fehervary was the only Capital to find the back of the net. That was pretty much it. There were some grade A opportunities that, it was right there. The net was open, and they're like, I'm going to shoot it to this guy first, not making the most of their opportunities. And that is ultimately not what's going to win you hockey games. Not high quality shots, nothing, not crashing the net, and none of the things that we've heard about all season the Capitals must do if they want to be successful. And it also doesn't help that the captain of the team, Alex Ovechkin, was all zeros on the score sheet, all across 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Those are the things that absolutely must change for the Capitals to win game number two. I'm not going to talk about who's going to win the series right now. I am concentrating on who is going to win game number two. They absolutely must get more shots on net, and I'll talk about the rest later in the show, this is not the Capitals, way they're going to win the series by not doing that, by not getting shots on net. The Rangers scored 3 goals quickly and dropped the curtain on the Capitals. And that was it. It's kind of one of the things that when the wheel starts to wobble, well, it falls off in a hurry. And that was evident as the Rangers scored in quick fashion. The Capitals got away with some penalties, and the Rangers didn't make them pay in the first period anyways. So there was some luck there. You saw Alexiev get involved there, and some of the plays that were just, you can't do that. Sometimes you're watching this, and I know I don't have the skates on. I'm not out there, but just watching it, the Alexiev, I'm like, dude, you can't do that and expect to get away with it. But in any event, they got unscathed in the first period. There was a lot of talk if the Rangers' tough guy was going to drop the mitts. And ultimately, he didn't do that. Rempe, if you must know, there was some temptation there. I think that Dylan McElrath was close to dropping the mitts with him, but ultimately it didn't happen. It got somewhat close with Dylan, but I think Laviolette has him on a leash and won't let him fight unless he gets the blessing from Lavi. Because I think that, if you take a look at Rempe and him playing on the Rangers, his score sheet doesn't necessarily doesn't look too glowing. Like, he doesn't light it up with goals scored or assists. He did get one tonight, however. So I think that they wanted to avoid the pitfalls of him getting a penalty or getting suspended, something like that. That same tough guy with a vanilla hockey card did, in fact, find the back of the net for the Rangers. So despite the fact that he has not lit it up this last season with either the Rangers or the Wolfpack, he did, in fact, find the back of the net for the Rangers and got them on the board. The Rangers also got goals from Panarin, Vesey, and Kreider. That is one of the things about the Rangers, is they have a lot of offensive weaponry that they are not afraid of using. The Capitals do not have that same weaponry. They have some of it, but the Capitals will not beat the Rangers pound for pound offensively. It's just not the case. Things also got worse for the Capitals blue line. Tell me if you've heard that before, with Jensen and Sandin and Vincent Iorio leaving the game in noticeable discomfort after taking a big hit from Alexis Lafreniere. A difficult thing to watch. You could tell he was in noticeable pain and did not return. I think that is going to put the pressure on Jensen and Sandin if they're close to, hey, maybe up it and, swallow a little bit of pain here. We need you out on the ice. It was borderline. Young player, I feel bad for him because he puts himself in a bad spot, Carberry told reporters. Really needs to move the puck quicker there just to get out of his hands. And then he hangs on to it, and Lafreniere wallops him. There was no call, and Iorio left the game with an upper body injury and did not come back. I'm going to say it did not look good. It looked like perhaps a dislocated shoulder. So that will probably be all she wrote for Vinny Iorio in the postseason. And that's what we're hoping for, that Jensen and Sandin, or one or the other, or both, are good to go in the next game. Like I said, the Caps are already minus Sandin and Jensen. But Charlie Lindgren, I've talked about him all season, that he has been the saving grace of the Capitals and did what he could do. He made some 10 bell saves out there. Lindgren stopped 27 of 31, and I truly believe it. If it wasn't for Lindgren, the score would have been much worse for the Capitals, as there were a lot of shots peppered on net, high-quality chances that ultimately I don't think that Kemper or anyone else in the Capitals organization would have been able to stop. Lindgren, talking to the media, said, "It's one game. We saw how deadly they are when you give them time and space. It's one game. It didn't go our way. It's one game. We saw how deadly they are. We've got to find a way to win next time." So that's all you can do. Try to find a way to win the next game. If you dwell on this loss for too long, then no doubt you will lose the next game as well. So the Capitals, they need to brush their shoulders off and get ready for the next one. It's not going to be an easy thing. There are not going to be any easy games for the Capitals. The next one is Tuesday, and then a game Friday and Sunday. So they do have a day to lick their wounds, reassess, take a look at some video, see what went wrong and anything that went right, and try to address that so they can be ready to go on Tuesday. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we will talk about if the Capitals have any plans of winning the next game. They must up their offense and stop trying to pass first. They must be a shoot first team. I'll discuss coming up. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com/locked-on and make your first bet an automatic win. And as we are watching the NHL playoffs, if you're watching the Nationals game, maybe you're not that into it. Maybe you don't care about the team that's playing on TV. If you want to get that much more interested, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game, and all of a sudden the game is that much more exciting. So visit fanduel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for a $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. One of the things that I took care of is life insurance because in case something happens to me, I want my kids and my wife to be prepared. You should do the same. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you walk through it. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So there's one thing I know for sure, is that if the Capitals want to win the next game, they must up the offense. And I know it's easier said than done. I mean, you must be thinking to yourself, Dan, if they could have done it, they would have done it. And I agree with that assessment, but they must find a way, regardless of the success they had in this last game. They must find a way in game number 2. That is why they have video coaches. That's why they have people poring over these things to deploy countermeasures to whatever the Rangers are laying out. It's not going to be easy, and it's not just Peter Laviolette. We had Peter Laviolette coaching this team last year. There is just some premier talent on the Rangers, but the Capitals are going to have to find a way to overcome. You have to get shots on net to win hockey games. Seems like a no-brainer. The Caps struggled with that in the regular season, and it was no exception today in the playoffs. Crash the net and good things will happen. The Caps fell back into bad habits of overpassing when the opportunity was there to take the shot at net. Hot potato, I don't want it. You take it. Guys, it's not radioactive. Just shoot it in the back of the net. Entries were a massive issue as everybody watched, head coach Spencer Carberry added. So we got to start there before we even talk about the end zone and the sequences. The Caps were struggling with offense all afternoon, and especially in the third period where they were getting outshot 16-4. Again, you must find a way. It's not up for me to decide how you must get it done. The coaches, the players, they've got to find a way to get it done. And they're like, well, it's the Rangers. They're really, really good. They found a way to beat the Bruins, the Canucks, the Jets, the Red Wings, all these upper echelon teams in the NHL. Surely they can find a way to take down the Rangers. The power play, well, that was atrocious, going 0 for 4 on the afternoon. The Caps were kept to the outside for the most part, and the Rangers were blocking shots, making it difficult for the Caps to gain any momentum. They blocked 18 total attempts. So it wasn't easy. I'm not going to say it is, but it shouldn't be easy. This is the playoffs, baby. If you are going to have any plans of winning a Stanley Cup, and if you're in the playoffs, surely you have those plans, or what are you doing out there? The Capitals have got to find a way to overcome. The shots the Caps did get were either wide or missed their target. And then you take a look at Alex Ovechkin, a nothing burger on the game, all zeros. He was the guiding force of this team when the Capitals were struggling. He was the guy to get it done. We need to see more from Alex Ovechkin. We need to see more from all the players, but most notably, Alex Ovechkin needs to be that leader that leads the charge. As it was difficult, there was no point in the game except for maybe the first period where I thought, hey, the Capitals could get a goal and then they can hold the lead. That I really thought that they were going to win the game. There was no opportunity. So that is kind of one of the things that's that sinking feeling when you're watching the game, like this is going to be a tough series. And I knew that it was going to be a tough series. And that's fine. They just have got to find a way to overcome. And Capitals fans, I know it's easy to panic. I know it's easy to think doom and gloom thoughts, that it's over. But think about how many times this last season that a lot of people thought the Capitals were dead. They were done. There was no way that they're going to even make it to the playoffs, period. They found a way to get it done. I do think that they can do it. I know that it's already 0-1 on the series, but all they have to do is win the next one and build on that. I don't think that the Rangers are infallible. I don't think that they are bulletproof. I do think the Capitals can find a way to do it. There is some upper echelon premier talent on the Capitals in the form of Alex Ovechkin, TJ Oshie, Tom Wilson, John Carlson, Dylan Strome, Sonny Milano that can score goals. Connor McMichael, Hendrik Slapierre. These guys know how to do it. It's the perfect mix of young and old talent. But like I said, I'm going to be an accurate assessor, 100% put my cards on the table. I'm not saying anything too novel here, that the Rangers far surpass the Capitals in offensive power. I don't have to think about it for a second. So that is what they have to do. They have to find a way to overcome. Poor teams beat better teams all the time. That is what the Capitals are going to have to do. Alex Ovechkin is going to have to dig deep. TJ Oshie, Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome, they're all going to have to dig deep if they want to win games. Again, I'm recording this on Sunday. They have Monday off to prepare for this, and hopefully they can hit the ground running, or the Capitals will be making a quick exit. I don't want to jump to that already, as I want to just play game by game, but just kind of being real here with you, they've got to change Tuesday and just build on it from there. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, something I've spoke about here for the last week or so, that the Capitals must up their physical game if they have any plans of taking down the Rangers or any opponent in the offseason. I'll discuss coming up. GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And no doubt some people that are listening to this show are trying to get tickets to a Nationals game, and they're thinking to themselves, dang it, I forgot. Well, fear not, as sometimes the tickets are actually cheaper near the start of the game. A really great situation. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Yes, the promo code has changed to LOCKEDONNHL. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So one thing is blaringly apparent to me, just pops off the page, is that the Capitals absolutely must up their physical game if they have any hopes of winning this series. We saw it happen towards the end of the game. Too little, too late. They should have done it in the second period when the Rangers were running away with it. I know that Rempe is the guy for the Rangers, the tough guy, and it was close between Dylan McIlrath and Rempe, and not real close. Rempe had kind of that, grin on his face, like, yeah, you want to step up to this. And, ultimately that might be the safer option to take. We want to kind of put Tom Wilson to an extent, kind of shield him from all of that, because we know that the league would love nothing more than to throw the book at Tom Wilson if he steps out of line in the smallest way. We've seen that before. And I'm going to be honest here. There have been some things that Tom Wilson have done that has warranted it. However, we can't afford Tom Wilson to miss any time. Now, I'm not going to say that he shouldn't drop the mitts, but what I'm saying is we can't have another Panarin situation where he's throwing Panarin down on the ice, something like that. Even though, in all honesty, Panarin jumped on his back. You know what I'm talking about. We can't get in the situation where Tom Wilson is out of control, like when that rage is just so out of control that I don't think he can control himself. We don't need that. So we do have a sacrificial lamb on this team in the form of Dylan McIlrath, a guy that is, well, he's familiar with dropping the mitts as well. And let's be honest here, we don't know how long Dylan McIlrath will be on the roster with Jensen and Sandin coming back at some point. What better thing than to change the momentum of the game than dropping the mitts and absolutely destroying some of these players? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a fight. I'm talking about finishing your checks. I'm talking about just laying them out. Alex Ovechkin, a bull in the china shop, all of those things. And if it's warranted, yes, drop the mitts. Tom Wilson, too, if it calls for it, but it's just such an eggshell thing for him to walk on, because if he steps out of line even slightly, then they're going to he's suspended, 3 games. 3-game suspension in the postseason. That's all she wrote. It could be. So it's a difficult position, but that is something that is glaringly apparent. We saw the Capitals try to take on that role, and I was talking about it with my wife at home when it was apparent in the third period that the Capitals were going to lose. I'm like, well, we need to pick up some sort of moral victory here. We need to win a fight. And I think that Dylan McIlrath must have been listening a little bit close to my conversation. Not really, but he was getting close to getting into a fight with Rempe. I thought it was going to happen. As it turned out, he walked away. But I think that if something like that had presented itself earlier in the game, maybe it could have changed the outcome. Like I talked about, Dylan McIlrath and Rempe and Wilson and Braden Schneider got into it at the end of the third, but it was ultimately too little, too late. So that is the thing that I'm going to underline more than anything. On a skill set level, the Rangers are better. They're better offensively. Their goaltender is dialed in. I know Chucky Lindgren's really good, but it's not enough. They have got to find a way to get into the Rangers' head. Some of the best guys to do it, the chirpers that are whispering stuff in your ear that kind of just get you all rattled and you're not thinking about what you're doing. That is what the Capitals need to do. Lay them out, chirp them, just play the mental game, play to your strengths. Garnet Hathaway was the maestro of being a chirper. Well, he's not on the team anymore. Tom Wilson, get in their head, get into a fight, grind them, destroy them, play a physical game, and do absolutely what you've got to do to win the game. Again, you have to pick your strength. Sometime when you're getting into a fight with someone on the street and they're bigger than you, you've got to do whatever you've got to do to win the fight. The Capitals have got to do whatever it takes to win the fight and the game. And if that means dropping the mitts earlier, I think they should have done it in the second period once it got out of hand. Just do whatever it takes to get in their head. They must do it. because pound for pound, the Capitals will not win just based on their skill set alone. I'm not here to diminish the Capitals. They do have some good goal scorers, but the Rangers they wiped the ice with the Capitals tonight. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no better way of putting it. Play to your strengths. Play physical hockey. That has been the identity in previous years, maybe not so much here recently, but that was the hallmarks of this team for years, is a big, tough team. Think like the big teams out there, like the Boston Bruins, those kind of teams out there that are just real heavy. The Capitals need to get back into that. And I think that will at least help. Sometimes, even if in baseball or any of these games, when they start to get rattled, when the pitcher gets rattled, once he gives up a couple big home runs, you can really take them to town and score some runs. The same thing, get into their head. If the Capitals would have scored another goal after a big fight, you're getting into their head. That is what the Capitals need to do. It's a psychological warfare as well as being a great hockey player. That is my recipe for success. Hit him with more shots. You're not going to win games if you don't crash the net. That is written in the most basic hockey handbook out there. Pump up the offense and also play the mental game, physical, chirping, whatever it takes, a full assault. Think about a military maneuver. They don't just send troops into a country. They soften it with a bombing mission first, or they fire missiles in there. The Capitals need to send their bombs and missiles in with the tough guys on the team, finishing it, do whatever it takes. And then once your target has been softened, then you can roll in Ovechkin and Wilson and Dylan Strome and all the goal scorers on the team, and it'll be easier. I've seen it before. I think it would work again. That is what the Capitals must do if they have any plans of succeeding. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful, but it's not just this show. I host another podcast show for the Capitals once a week called the Capitals Minute Cast. Check that out wherever you get your podcasts. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel, available on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holmey, and I'll talk to you again next time.